How's it going, everybody? I'm Kyle from Fantasy Forge Studios.
And I'm Dane, or Forge, from Fantasy Forge Studios.
And today we are going to be going over the Earth type creatures in the Heroes of the West. And so it's going to be a big focus on kind of the first non human group that we'll see, non human race, which are the fairies, but specifically the Grumala fairies.
Yeah. So in the world of Everlast, there are many different races, and fairies are one of them. However, they're split into a bunch of different factions of fairies, and so they don't all look the same. But the Grumala are pretty sweet. I'm excited to talk about them. They're
Yeah,
they're one of the hidden gems of the Heroes of the West set for sure.
for sure. And they are kind of like a mixture between like a gnome slash hobbit to a degree from like I guess like your D&D. And so they're short people that are kind of like elf-like in features. But looking here at the map of the Heroes of the West, we have the region of New Ultrulican, which is the Kingdom of Helix that everything takes part in. And most of the creatures that are part of the Grumala in this set are from a settlement called Roinville, which takes place right up here where this white dot is here in the forest. And so we've already gone over Calum, we've gone over Helix, and now we're making our way kind of furthest to the furthest north area, which is Roinville.
Yep, it's pretty good. And as always, when we introduce this set, if you're confused, that's probably because you don't know the game of Everlast. If you're curious about learning about the game of Everlast, we do have videos on our YouTube channel, so go check those out. We have a video about explaining card anatomy. We also have both, at this point that this video is coming out, both the Flame and the Frost cards, as Kyle had mentioned, up on our YouTube channel. So feel free to go check those out as well. And we also have some how to play videos and some trailers for the first two sets, Heroes of the West and the Raising of Helix. Or just stick around and hang out with us and then go back and watch those at a later date. But especially as we go into the analysis of each card, that might give you, in general, just some better background information for being able to understand what we're looking at today.
So many of the different elements of cards have different strategies in how you play them, and primarily the way that Earth types are supposed to work is they're supposed to be quick. And so they have a lot of creatures that have basically like 1 or 2 mana cost attacks or actions, and they're supposed to really be good of kind of like low damage but consistent like attacking. For that, where like we saw in like the Flame, for example, like really high mana cost but pretty devastating attacks. These ones are kind of more just like moving around and like poking and doing all kinds of stuff to really weaken your opponent's creatures. And then they're really good at targeting life points too, for that. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into the first adventurer class of the Earth types, which is going to be the Rangers. So as you can see, we have our nice Grumala gnomish fairies here. And so we have the Adventure Ranger. This is based off of the Everlast TC or the Everlast role-playing game. One of the adventuring classes that you can choose and play from the beginning is the Ranger, and they have 50 hit points as a primary creature. You can have 3 of them on your battlefield at a time, and they have the humanoid, Grumala, adventurer, and ranger keyword. They are attacker types just natively, which essentially what that means is they can move 2 spaces during your turn in the movement phase, and then they have attack actions as well. Their drop ability, which is Ethereal Sight, when you play them from your hand onto your battlefield, search your deck for a consumable item and add it to your hand. Shuffle your deck. So it's great, again, for kind of like speed play of like a deck manipulation and getting stuff out that you want. That's kind of the way that Earth is supposed to play.
Yeah. And having that attacker right away, and as you can see, for its attack activate ability, it's for 1 damage, so it's pretty solid. You can start attacking turn 2 or turn 1 if you have um, any specific card that allows you to attack turn 1. However, let's take a look. So the primary attack is 20 plus, and the secondary is 20. Which, if we're taking a look over here on the breakdown of the attacks, That's a really solid attack for just 1 Earth mana, which is pretty good. But it's called Marked Quarry, and the additional effect is add 10 damage to the primary target for each secondary target creature that receives damage from this attack action. So it does more damage to the center creature if you hit all three of these creatures. So it's pretty good early game and late game.
Yeah,
So
you could potentially get up to
super
50
solid.
damage for just 1 Earth mana, which is pretty good.
Hmm.
Oh, and also, we could talk, since we have this card up, about elemental weaknesses and resistances. And so
Hmm.
Earth creatures are actually weak to electric type creatures, which will be the next video that we talk about. And then the resistance are to flame type. And so I know a lot of people kind of view green as like being weak to flame, but nope, that's frost, and so they are actually resistant to flame type creatures, and so they're a pretty actually decent counter to flame type decks. But that's
Hmm.
the primary creature of kind of the ranger class. As you saw in the other videos, they promote into 4 different types of creatures. 2 of them are attackers, 1 is a defender, and 1 is a support. We'll start with the first 2 attackers, starting with the sharpshooter.
Hmm. Yep. So we'll take a look at the sharpshooter here. As we can see, it's got 70 HP as opposed to the 50. You can have 3 of them on your field if you want, and then it's an attacker type. And again, humanoid, Grimala, adventurer, ranger are the keywords. But it also has a trait. So as long as this creature is active on your battlefield, you can use critical focus. So you may draw 1 additional card from your deck at the start of your turn in the movement phase. So again, green, making your deck move quicker. And so just by having him on the field, you can draw basically 2 cards as opposed to 1 from your into your hand from the start of your turn, which is super strong.
And that also stacks if you do have 3 of them. And so if you
Hmm.
have, you could potentially draw up to 4 cards if you do have 3 of these sharpshooters, which is pretty good, I would say, like deck manipulation, and you can get through your deck pretty quickly. But he does
Hmm.
have the attack cover shot, which it targets 2 creatures, the primary in the back and the secondary in the front. So if there are creatures in front of the attacker, it will skip that creature and hit whatever is directly behind them. If there are no creatures directly in front or back, the 50 is going to be the target. However, if there is a creature on the back line of your opponent's battlefield, you can actually use this to skip over the target and target damage, as again, only primary targets or primary target areas can target life points. And so
Hmm. So
50 damage to the primary target and then 10 damage to the secondary target.
yeah, it's pretty strong. It might look underwhelming compared to the primary, but being able to just skip targets on the back line and just hit directly at the life points is super strong. It's very uncommon. So
Well,
that's
and you also are
pretty
doing,
solid.
you don't have to build in the
Hmm.
potential 50 for the primary target. It just does
Hmm.
more damage to a primary target without an additional mana cost, which is nice.
Hmm.
But that brings us
Yeah.
to our second creature that promotes from the Adventurer Ranger, which is the Adventurer Synergist. And so they have 70 hit points. The Humanoid Grumala Adventurer Ranger keywords, it's an attacker type. And it has the drop ability Mana Manipulation. So your opponent reveals the top 3 cards of their deck. Choose an art that you find there, and you may play it as if it were your card. Whether you play it or not, discard it. Place the remaining cards back on top of your opponent's deck in any order. And so this is actually pretty truly, as you can pretty much use your opponent's arts if they do have them. And so it's when you play this creature from your hand onto as a drop ability onto your battlefield. If you just so happen to, you can like kind of look through their deck to see at least the top 3 cards of their deck to see what's there, and then you can discard it, like discard a potential card if it's not useful to you, or if it is useful, then you can actually use that as your own. So yeah, it's pretty good.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely. And it allows you, if you do happen to draw a art card from the top of their deck, you could potentially even use 2 arts per turn because this
Hmm.
doesn't count as using your art, which is really nice. So arts are definitely are stronger than other items. So being able to potentially use 2 arts is pretty solid. But then we take a look at his activate, and it is Excel Blast for 2 Earth mana. And so this does 40 damage to the primary and then 40 damage to the secondary. So it not only hits the first person for 40, it targets the very first person in the line, but it also hits the two, if there are two creatures behind, for 40 as well. So very solid.
Yep.
Very, very solid.
Yeah, it's really good if you have kind of like lanes that your opponent has stacked behind. Yeah, you could potentially do some pretty decent damage to 3 of your opponent's creatures. But that takes us into our next creature, which is the Defender type Duelist.
Yeah. So as we take a look, it does have higher HP. Being a defender, it's got 80 HP as opposed to 70 that the two attackers had. It has it is a defender, and it has the keywords humanoid, Grimala, adventurer, and ranger. And so its trait is swift parry. So as long as he is on the battlefield, this is in effect. So when this creature is in the guard position and is the target of an attack action, immediately deal 40 damage to the attacking creature after receiving the damage, regardless of whether or not the damage from your opponent's attack action slays the creature. So it's a very strong counter. Basically, it disincentivizes your opponents from targeting this creature when he's in the defense position, because taking just 40 damage to the face for trying to attack a creature is a lot. Even for promoted creatures, that's quite a bit in this game. So very strong defensive ability or trait.
Yeah, it definitely, like, the more defenders, the way that they kind of work is they might not have the biggest hit point pool out there, but if they can disincentivize, like, take up space and disincentivize creatures from attacking certain areas, then they're doing their job. But then that goes into its attack ability, which is Arrow Breaker. For 1 Earth mana, it does 30 damage to the primary target creature, with the additional effect: if the target is an attacker type creature, flip a coin. If the result is a heads, the target gains the broken status ailment for D4 combat rounds, which actually, this might be the first time that we've seen the broken status ailment. So you can always go check on our website. We have a print off of all the rules, and on the very back page you see broken. Essentially what it is a creature that has the broken status ailment has basically 1 basic mana cost, additional cost to their actions. And so let's just say, for example, you have I don't know, you're attacking somebody else's ranger type. Instead of 1 earth mana, it would be an earth mana plus 1 just basic mana element that it would take in order to actually do for them to actually be able to use their attack actions. And so yeah, that broken is honestly kind of the bane of earth decks, as earth decks really function on kind of their low mana cost, but they have the ability, obviously in the case of the Duelist, to inflict broken on your opponent's creatures too, which can even bump them up from, I think right now the max mana cost of a card is 4 right now. I don't think there's anything that has higher than 4 mana cost.
There's one with 5. There's one with 5.
Is that the Executioner?
It's the Executioner. Yeah.
Okay. There is one with 5, meaning its attack or its action will take 6 mana total to be able to use.
Whew.
And so yeah, like broken, and especially if it can be on your opponent's creature for 4 combat rounds, like that's crazy. The effect does not stack, but it's pretty good.
Well, pair the Duelist with Kamala. If you want to put Kamala in any deck, it could work with the Duelist. We talked about her in the Frost set, so go back and look at that if you're curious who Kamala is.
Perfect. And that brings us to our final creature that promotes from the base Ranger Adventure, which is the support type Tracker. So he has 60 hit points, the humanoid, Grimala, adventure, and ranger keyword, and has the drop ability Herbalist's Cure. So search your deck for up to 3 consumable items, reveal them, and place them into your hand. Shuffle your deck. So basically, it's a buffed version of the Ethereal Insight, essentially, which is good. Any search power is great, and it's up to, and so you could choose 1 up to 3, depending on what your situation is and what it's in. But yeah, and the nice thing also about support creatures is you can activate them to generate mana too. So this creature generates earth mana.
Thordain got really short. those of you who don't know, in the actual tabletop RPG campaign, the Thordane character, who will be a promo, which is pretty cool. He's a box topper, a potential box topper if you do decide to get a box, is Thordane, and he is actually an adventure tracker, which is pretty cool. So he technically in the tabletop RPG also has herbalist's cure, which is pretty sweet. But let's take a look at the trackers activate. So again, being a support, it's a green activate, meaning you use this during the movement phase. And it's for one. So if you decide to forego using activating him to get mana, you can use one earth mana to use Gale Push. So choose one of your opponent's active creatures and move it to a different unoccupied space on your opponent's battlefield and flip a coin. On the result of a heads, the target gains the stunned status ailment until the end of the combat round. So there is an art that we'll talk about later that allows you to move creatures around on the board, but this is stronger because it'll also potentially give the stunned status ailment. So, Kyle, do you want to explain what stunned is?
Stunned is pretty simple compared to some of the other stat stones. It just means that the creature can't move. They can still perform actions and everything, but they just are unable to move, which is good. I mean, especially if a creature is moved by your opponent to like a space on their battlefield where it kind of disadvantages them, and then it keeps them there. Even if you go first, that means that the other creature can't move, and so move back to maybe their original spot if they had the ability to do so. And so yeah, it's pretty strong.
Mm-hmm. Very solid.
So that is going to be the Ranger Adventurer class. And so definitely great to be able to add to decks that maybe you want to run Adventurer decks that function a lot based off the Adventurer keyword or even like the Ranger keyword. And so kind of a lot of options there. But now we're kind of moving more into the Roinville specific cards. And so the creatures, NPCs that are specific to that locale. Starting with our first captain creature of actually the Earth types, which is a Drugar Gillweed. He is the Marshal of Roinville and basically the head sheriff of the people there. But he is a defender type creature, and he has 100 hit points, so he's real thick. He's short, but he's stout, and he's got the Captain Humanoid, Grumala, and Roinville keyword, and he's a defender type creature. He has the trait Marshal of Roinville. So while he's active on your battlefield, at the start of each combat round, flip a coin. On the result of a heads, restore 20 hit points to all of your active creatures that have the Grumala keyword. And so he's also a healer. And that's basically it's based off of a coin flip, and it's at the end of each combat round, but he can keep your kind of squishier earth type Grumala creatures on your battlefield for much longer.
Mm-hmm. And just to clarify, it's the end of the combat round, not the start of the combat round.
Mm-hmm.
He does have a attack activation, which is pretty good. So it's for two earth mana, and it is Law Keeper Slash, and that is for 60 damage. So for two, whew, that's pretty good. Two earth mana for 60 is solid from a defender type creature, especially. But the additional effect is move the target one space to the left or right into an unoccupied space. So that's pretty strong. Not only does it do 60 damage, but you also during the attack phase have the potential to move creatures, which is super solid, and it can move open gaps to life points or to guys who are being protected in rows that are towards the back. So very solid for a defender.
Which goes in
too.
Yeah, the artwork's real nice as well. But that goes into our first defender, kind of primary defender line of the Grumala, which is the Feathercap Sheriff.
Yep, and as you can see in the top corner, you can have up to 3 of him on the battlefield. He's not a captain. He's not a named character. He is just a Feathercap Sheriff. But he has 50 HP for a primary type, and he has the keywords Humanoid, Grumala, and Roinville. He does have a trait, and his trait is Peacekeeper. So as long as he is active on the battlefield, you can add 10 damage to the primary target of this creature's attack actions for each of your active creatures with the Roinville keyword on your battlefield. So he is a defender, but he has the potential to hit real hard if you've got a bunch of Grumala on your battlefield. So super solid.
Yep. And then he's got his very simple attack action for 1 Earth Mana Warhammer for 30 damage, which that can potentially go up to 100 damage if you are have all basically extra 7. It does not include him, and so it's not a base 40. It's a base 30, which includes him. But if you have a 7 total of your 8 possible creatures that have the Roinville keyword on your battlefield, then he could potentially for 1 mana deal up to 100 damage. So yeah, he's again mighty for such a small fellow. But he does promote into a creature called the Feathercap Constable. Who has the 30 HP buff to 80 HP, human, Grumala, Roinville keywords. He's a defender type still, and he still keeps the Peacekeeper trait. And so it just essentially increases his attack by 1, potentially.
Yep.
Or 10.
And his attack is 40. So basically he just has a bigger HP pool. He's got slightly more attack, and he got a promotion. So that's pretty cool.
Yep. So it's kind of like I think of it back to like kind of the Flame Goblins. There's really no reason not to have him have his promoted type, as he pretty much is just a buffed version of the original. But you could also, if you want to make room for other stuff in your deck and you're okay with just the original primary type, you're not missing out too much on like extra abilities and stuff that the promotion has. And then that takes us into another NPC for the game, which is a young lad called Hagon Billywog. He is a yeoman, which is essentially what that means is he's kind of like one of the main like archers, kind of watchers of Roinville. But do you want to go ahead and explain his?
Yeah, so as a primary, again, he is a captain, so he's got 60 HP, so slightly higher than some of the other primary characters, especially as an attacker class. But yes, his keywords are attacker, humanoid, Grumala, and Roinville. So he does have a trait, so again, as long as he is active on the battlefield, his Feathercap Yeoman trait is active, which all of your active attacker type creatures with the Roinville keyword gain the aggressive trait. So we've seen this a few times, but Kyle, do you want to explain one more time what aggressive is to those who aren't familiar?
Yep. Aggressive is at the end of the movement phase before both players move into the attacker phase. The creatures with the aggressive have the ability to be able to perform their attack actions before basically out of turn order, the combat initiative order. And I guess this is probably a good place to clarify too. If both you and your opponent have creatures with the aggressive trait active, it's whoever has the priority initiative that their attackers go first. So it's kind of just normal, but these attacks happen before the attack phase officially begins. So it's good if you are primarily going second in the combat basically combat round. It allows your creatures to attack before preemptively, essentially.
Yeah, just especially with this trait, I could see him being a staple in all Grumala, or is it Roinville?
Yep.
Roinville decks. So any Roinville deck that has, I just have a feeling Hagon Billywog is going to be a staple just because of that aggressive. It's that good. So
for sure.
Yeah.
His attack action for the cost of only 1 Earth Mana is Grumala Bow, and it hits 2 creatures similar to the Sharpshooter Ranger. It targets 2 creatures, skipping the first creature as the secondary target for 40 damage for the primary and 20 damage to the secondary. So he also can hit decently hard too. Now we're moving into our first of actually 2 support lines in this kind of element. The Earth characters are a little bit different in that way, as they don't have actually a primary attacker line, but they have 2 primary support lines, starting off with the Grumala Flower Girls. So they have 40 hit points, so pretty low hit points, kind of similar to more like flame type primary creatures, but they have the humanoid Grumala Roinville keyword, and they have the support, their support type. And Dane, do you want to go ahead and explain the ability?
Yeah. They're pretty simple. as you can see, they don't have any activates. They only have a drop. So when you play them from your hand, so Flower Gift. So when you play this card from your hand onto the battlefield, search your deck for a primary type creature card with the Roinville keyword and place it onto your battlefield in the unactivated position. So not only can you search for one, um, search your deck for a primary creature, but it's unactivated, which is super strong when you play that. So they're really good from turn one if you have it in your hand to play directly onto your battlefield. You can get set up pretty quick with
Mhm.
them. But yeah, as you can see, they don't have an actual attack activation or an activation, whether that's a support activation or attack activation. So once they're out on the field, basically they're used to generate mana. So super
Mhm.
solid.
Yeah, this again, speed is the name of the game when it comes to Earth, and so like anything that you can do to get more creatures out as fast as possible, that's where the Grumala shine. And then that brings us into their promotion, which is the Grumala students. They have 50 hit points. They got the humanoid, Grumala, and Roinville keywords. They are again support type creatures, and they have the drop ability Primary Education. So when you play this creature from your hand onto your battlefield, draw cards equal to the number of creatures that you have active on your battlefield. So again, draw power. It's really, really good.
Yep. Very good. They do have an activate this time though, in their promoted form, and that is for if you decide to forego giving yourself mana, you can use a Earth mana to use Playtime. So shuffle one card from your hand into your deck, and then draw two cards. So again, if your hand's not what you're liking, and you're like, I don't need this, I don't need this at this moment, you can shuffle that into your deck and draw two. So pretty good.
Pretty darn good.
And the art again is amazing on the Earth cards. They're so good. I love the Garmalas.
Yeah,
They're
I
real
have a
good.
hunch we're gonna have lots of fans of our Grumala creatures, but that brings us into the second kind of primary support line of the Earth types, which is the Grumala Researcher. So they have 50 hit points, the humanoid Grumala Roinville keywords, and their support type creature, and they have the trait Mana Lore. So at the end of each combat round, flip a coin. On the result of a heads, add one earth mana to your mana pool. On the result of tails, this creature cannot use this trait during the next combat round. And so it's good. Definitely, it helps to speed up mana generation. There is a little bit of a downside to it, which is kind of what its promotion takes care of. So we can go ahead and
Mhm.
move into the next one. Dane, if you want to introduce this creature.
Yeah. So again, the Grumala Researcher promotes into the Grumala Elder. It's got 10 more HP at 60 HP. It is a support, and it's got the keywords Humanoid, Grumala, and Royanville. So again, its trait is Mana Lore Mastery. So at the end of each combat round, flip a coin. On the result of a heads, add one Earth mana to your mana pool. So it gets rid of that second part of that trait, which basically makes you skip it. So he's mastered it, which is pretty solid. Mhm.
Yep. And he
Yep.
has the support action activate ability, which is a for the cost of only one earth mana channeling. Discard this creature and all attached cards. For the remainder of the combat round, all arts that you play cost a -3 just basic mana to cast. And so if there are some arts that are offensive or do cost mana, this is a great way to be able to reduce the cost of that. Especially if you have lots of kind of support type creatures out. It's also a good way to make space on your battlefield for more creatures with the ability to reduce also the cost of any arts that you play. So pretty good. It's situational, and so it's definitely kind of like a ability to use like if you really need it, and you'll be able to kind of telegraph that situation if you pull like or a card that's like, this could be really useful, but I don't want to spend all my mana. Or it could also be really good to have play cards that, for example, if you're running a mono Earth type deck, and there are some art cards that maybe use different elements, whether it's flame, whether it's light, whether it's dark, and you don't even have any mana generation for that, you can use this card to reduce the mana cost in order to play basically those specific basic arts cards. And so yeah, it's really nice. It gives a lot of kind of synergy with some other elements as well, for other decks if you want to combine these creatures as kind of like an earth line of support in multi-element decks too. So pretty strong. I know we always say that like all these cards are strong, but I think they are. The nice thing about the Everlast TCG is every card is useful to a certain degree. But this is actually going to bring us into one of the first kind of hero cards of the set, which, Dane, do you want to go ahead and introduce our first creature?
Yeah, so the first hero of the Grumala or of Roinville that promotes into an EX creature is Lil Miss Clarisse Honeypetal. And yes, that is a fun name to say. And again, she is actually one of the arts on the box, which is pretty cool. So if you have a booster box and you're looking around the box, you can see her on there. So she is one of the main set heroes, as one could say. But she is a hero, so she is a primary type creature with 80 HP, added an attacker, which is pretty strong. But she is a captain. She's humanoid. She's a Grimala, and she's from Roinville. So those are her keywords. She does have a drop. So once you play this card from your hand onto your battlefield, she gains haste. So place this creature onto your battlefield in the unactivated position. So she is really strong if you can get her, especially turn one. You play her from your hand onto the battlefield, and you can start attacking right away if you can generate mana, which is, again, that's the name of the game when it comes to Earth. So
Yep.
pretty good.
Going to be very quick and is going to start setting things up and putting pressure on your opponents very early on, especially because her activate ability, her attack action, only costs 1 mana as well. And so for pinpoint shot, it does similar to kind of the other archers that we see here, where it does skip over the first creature as the secondary target, and does 60 damage to the primary target and then 30 damage to the secondary target. So again, great for being able to take advantage of backline creatures to target hit points for a very low 1 mana cost. And as we had mentioned, she does have an EX, so she promotes into the Lil Miss Clarisse Honeypetal EX creature, which again, the
Oh,
art.
it's so good. I love her art. It's so good.
Her
It's so good.
she is an EX creature, so if she is slain, you take a point of damage to your life points, and so she's pretty strong because of that. But she has 120 starting hit points. She has the attacker typing, and then she has the hero, captain, humanoid, Grumala, Roinville, and ranger keyword. So if you are running a deck of rangers, her EX actually does have that ranger keyword to be able to use with some kind of passive buffs and stuff if you're doing that. But she does have the trait Deadly Hunter, so as long as she's active on your battlefield, when this creature performs an attack action, flip a coin. On the result of a heads, remove the top card of your opponent's deck from the game. So it's kind of trolly against your opponent. So as long as you're flipping coins, and again, you can pair this with our Kamela from the Frost set, where you could potentially reflip coins in order to just start discarding cards from your opponent's deck. So it's pretty darn good.
She's just Camela's go into Roinville for vacation. That's all you have to say about that. But she does have an activate. So for 2 Earth mana, she can use Blizzard Volley. And again, this is an attack activate, so you use this on the attack phase. So the primary target gets dealt 60 damage, and all 4 secondary creatures, if there are 4, get dealt 30. It does have an additional effect. So if the primary target is your opponent's life points, deal 2 damage instead of 1 damage to the life point total. So again, if you just have someone lined up against the back row and you just hit directly at the life points, or if there's no one blocking your life points, she's super strong. I think she's the only card that can deal multiple damage to life points, which is really good. So again, if you can get her EX out right away and you can start just hitting your opponent's life points for 2, the game will be over real quick if they can't set up. So yeah, Very
And
good.
she also
Very solid.
does have a EX activate for an attack action. So this might be one of the first attack actions that we've seen from EX activates. But for the cost of 1 Earth mana, it's just 100 damage, unresisted damage. And so even against creatures that do resist the Earth type, it's just straight 100 damage to one of your opponent's active creatures. And so it doesn't matter where she's lined up. You can just select one of your opponent's active creatures and do 100 damage to it. And so she has pretty good kind of battlefield control too, because nobody is safe from her shots. So she's gonna be fun. She's gonna be popular.
She's a hero for a reason, right?
Exactly.
And that art, that background.
Yeah.
Let's appreciate it one more time. Hold on. Let's appreciate it one more time. Oh man, just look at it. Sorry, I'm a fan of this art of this card. That fall time forested background.
Yep.
Solid.
Which brings us to the last hero of, and actually the last 2 cards of the Roinville kind of Grumala Earth type cards here. And it's going to be Rumilda Gitta. She has 70 hit points. She has the Captain, Humanoid, Grumala, and Roinville keywords, and she's a support type creature. She has a trait called the Lady of Roinville. So while she is active on your battlefield, all of your creatures with the Roinville keyword gain the haste drop ability. So as long as she is on your battlefield, she is an amazing turn 1 support to have down, as her trait allows every creature that is played onto your battlefield, basically from turn 1 on, if you do get her from turn 1, to just be able to be played from your hand onto your battlefield in the unactivated position. So good.
Yep, and especially with the low cost of all the mana on all the cards, you can pretty much guarantee 2, if not 3, attacks happening during the first round, which could be devastating to your opponent.
Mm-hmm.
But she does have an activate if you decide to forego mana. You can decide to use or activating her for mana, you can decide to use 1 Earth mana to summon a servant. So basically, this reveals the top 5 card, or reveal the top 5 cards of your deck. Choose 1 creature among the revealed cards and add it to your hand. Shuffle the remaining cards back into your deck. So basically, allows you to take cards from the top of your deck, which is good. So again, getting creatures into your hand, especially if you're struggling, getting creatures into your hand, she can come in clutch for that.
And it's always good to have a little extra use for shuffle. I think a lot of people can be frustrated when their decks don't have a lot of shuffle abilities. This is good, even if there's nothing to be able to grab there. Just to kind of shuffle your deck up is always nice too. But she is a captain, so she's one of the 3 captain types that you can have on your battlefield at a time. But she does promote into Romilda Gitta EX, who is honestly quite strong. Do you want to go ahead and kick things off?
Yeah. So she's got 30 more HP at 100. She is a support type character. She has the keywords hero, captain, humanoid, Grumala, and Roinville. And so pretty good. Same as the all the
Primary
others
version,
except
yep.
with hero. Yeah, primary version, just with hero added, which is kind of nice. She does have a trait, so as long as she is active on the battlefield, she can use Lady of Roinville. So all of your creatures with the Roinville keyword gain the haste drop ability, which is again the same exact thing. So yeah, pretty good.
So she stays very useful in that aspect, whether she is the primary version or the promoted EX version. And then she gets the activate ability, Decadent Taste, which is just draw 4 cards, which is always nice.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and then she's got an EX activate as well. So if you she can only use this once per game for her, but for 2 Earth mana, you can use Petty Grievances. So choose 8 cards in your opponent's discard pile and remove them from the game. Draw 1 card for each creature card removed in this way. So not only is it trolly, not only can you remove like really annoying cards from your opponent's deck, if they so they can't shuffle them back into the deck, but if you decide to use creatures, you can also draw cards, which is really nice. So it's very strong, very, very strong.
Yep, and it kind of makes it so while she's out on the battlefield, decks especially that utilize like a lot of discard manipulation, they're not safe. especially if you kind of know how your opponent's deck plays. Like, you can really target some key things and just remove them from the game, and so they are just kind of like non-factors at that point. Again, it is an EX activate, so you can only use it once per game, specifically for Rumilda Gitta. But yeah, it's a very situational, and just like the threat of it is enough to deter your opponent from doing a lot of stuff. I think this is gonna be a trolley card, and people are gonna like go like ugh when they come up against it. So,
But they'll also be like, "Ooh, nice," because look at that background. I love it. I love the roses. I just love I love the Earth cards in Heroes of the West. They just look so nice.
but that is those are the last two cards of the Earth type for Heroes of the West. Stay tuned. We will be going into next week the Electric type creatures for Heroes of the West, and also stay tuned for the Earth types and all the other ones for the Raising of Helix expansions for the Everlast TCG. Until then, may Alomnia guide you, and we will see you in the next one. Bye, everybody.